Now, let us get caught up on everything that happened. A lot happened. And I was trying to report on it as it happened yesterday. And at some point, it just reached the overwhelming proportion of I'm just going to throw everything on the board and just throw all of it out there. So today is a little more rational than yesterday's craziness. And yet, and again, I do want to discuss the impossibility of a GM's task yesterday. Um, Kyler Yamamoto, week to week with an ankle injury, is troubling if you're an Oilers fan. However, by adding Athanasiu, Athanasiu may offset that. And I know Ennis is there too, but Athanasiu is the more skilled of the two, obviously. And so he would likely be the more fortunate one to see Yamamoto out that, oh, there's a prime. I'll play that spot. And I think he'll get that chance until Yamamoto's back. Giordano's considered a game time decision for the Flames, so that's good news. The Flames have Giordano coming back, and they added on the blue line, so they could have a really strong blue line once he returns. Logan Couture is also considered a game time decision for the Sharks. And where things get potentially awkward, and I just mean potentially, is Doug Wilson has come out and said he's quite happy to keep Joe Thornton. It's not a big deal. He's glad that things worked out for Marleau. Didn't quite work out for finding a trade partner for Thornton. Thornton, on the other hand, has said, I really wanted a shot at another cup. He is disappointed that he couldn't make his exit from San Jose to win a Stanley Cup somewhere else, or at least take that run at it. I understand both sides of this. And, if it is Thornton's last year, it's kind of a sad way to bow out. So, anyways, we'll see starting tonight how things go. And with Couture back, maybe San Jose can win a few games and at least have a decent enough record at the end of the season. Dominic Cahoon has a lower body injury. And so while Buffalo acquired him, he's not with the team yet. And whether that's related to why he's not with the team yet or not hasn't come out, but I would imagine that's what it is. I imagine it's not a big deal. It's like Johnny Gaudreau leaves the practice to relieve himself, and everybody goes nuts yesterday. Yeah, I'm sure they're trading Gaudreau. Anyways, so it's not NHL 20. So it is 2020 and it's the NHL, but it's not the video game. So yeah, we'll see if Cahoon makes his debut in the next game, but it doesn't look like he's going to make his debut for them in this one. So it looks like it'll be, I believe, Thursday's their next game. Kelly McCrimmon felt and came out and publicly said he felt they needed to upgrade the backup in Vegas. That in the instance that, let's say, something happens to Fleury, that he felt that they didn't have anybody who could run with it if something happened with Fleury in the playoffs. Vegas fans have been saying this for at least a year. And while I have been a supporter of Subban's efforts, and I felt there have been nights where Subban's been unfairly criticized, Leonard's a large upgrade. And so in Robin Leonard's case, it makes sense for Vegas to pick him up. And I know there's some tricky bits with the salary where 50% is being held by Chicago, 44% with Toronto, and 6% with Vegas. But regardless of how much they're paying him or not paying him, they needed to upgrade their goaltending for the last while. So I'm glad they finally did it. I'm glad they admitted they had to do it. I don't understand why they didn't do it a year ago, where it was obvious that upgrade needed to be made. I don't know if they thought maybe they would find that from within. They wanted, we're just going to give Subban another chance. But when you saw Gerard Gallant playing, I'm trying to remember how many games Fleury played in a row. It was in the teens. And it was ridiculous, where you could see Fleury was wearing down. And as the season wore on, he got less and less impressive, and then you roll into the playoffs. And where the year before he'd been fantastic, Fleury was okay. He was good in some games. But you have to wonder, if he'd been able to rest more, would they have knocked out San Jose in the first round? And I think they could have. So now they're a more dangerous team, and apparently they're now favorites to win the cup, according to the betting sites. Depending on which one you go to, of course. But again, we were all taking Tampa before the playoffs. Look how that turned out last year. So Vegas has put themselves in a better position. Absolutely. Going to the New York Islanders, Lou Lamoriello could not stop beaming yesterday in interviews after not just getting Jean-Gabriel Pageau, but extending him. and feeling that this contract is a great idea. And as far as he could tell, this roster needed a right-handed shot in the middle, and this is exactly what Pajot is. He's exactly what the doctor ordered, and he can't wait to see him out on the ice as an Islander, and he's very excited about Pajot. And it was nice to hear Lou Lamoriello excited about, picking somebody up. And I trust Lou Lamoriello. He's been in this job for a very long time, with New Jersey, with Toronto, and now with the Islanders. And he's usually got a pretty good eye for which guy's going to fit with his roster. So, yeah, Pajot is being embraced by the Islanders. And when I look at how much money he got from the Islanders, I'm actually kind of surprised Ottawa didn't go up to that level. And I get it. I get Ottawa thinking, well, once we get better, he'll be a third line center. Yeah, but you're not better yet. And you need to keep players around and not just, this guy wants money. Well, we're going to trade him. Because while it's great to get the prospects back, they have all kinds of draft picks. It's what you do with them. And that's where it gets kind of tricky. And we'll see where Ottawa's rebuild ends up after this season. Because it's next season where the expectation is things are going to start getting better. And I really thought Pajot would be part of things getting better. And I guess with Borowiecki still being there, I guess he'll be part of the coming out of the rebuild portion of things. With Carolina, I can't find anything right now, whether that comes out in the next little while here or not. Anything regarding an actual timeline for Mrazek, Reimer, and Pesce. Going on a coach or a GM saying, it can be longer term, clearly. Well, what does that mean? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 4? I have to think, looking at everything Carolina did yesterday, that if Reimer and Mrazek were both going to miss a lot of time, and if we're projecting 6-8 weeks, that he would have gone out and got a goaltender. And the fact that he didn't either means Nedeljkovic is a goaltender that he has faith in, so either he has a lot of faith in Nedeljkovic to carry things for a bit here, or one of them's going to be back within, I would say, 2 weeks. And so again, it's when you hear, clearly they're not going to be back for a long time. Well, it's not a date, though. So we'll see what happens. And Pesce, there's rumors he might be done for the season. But again, until we know for sure, it is all guesswork at this point. And I think the fact Carolina didn't trade for a goaltender, I think that's a sign that it may be not so bad for one or the other. I don't know which one would come back first. I would think Reimer. I don't think Reimer's injury looked as scary as Mrazek's. But again, we don't know the exact extent of the injuries. They're not telling us. And this time of year, they're not gonna. Chuck Fletcher is saying that Gostisbehere was not on the block. He had no interest in trading him. And again, and I said this in the preview this morning, his trade value right now wouldn't be very high. So you might as well keep him in the lineup and keep him on your roster and see if he turns things around and then figure it out during the summer where it's easier to make a hockey trade. The Flyers aren't in a position where they're going to be sellers, obviously. Gostisbehere doesn't get included in a deal where you're buying. So it makes more sense if they're going to make a move to wait until the summer or just keep him. There's no harm in keeping him at this stage. So that makes sense. Montreal, Marc Bergevin, I did feel bad for him yesterday. When you've got the media pestering you looking for the exact quote, and they were looking for that. I think what they wanted from Bergevin was for him to come out and say, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, you're right. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, we are in the exact same spot now we were years ago. I have no clue what I'm doing. You're right. I should quit. And it felt to me like that's what the media wanted. They're kind of like, can you admit you're an idiot? No. Come on, just admit you're an idiot, kind of. Just please, I just have to get this into my editor, and it'd be great if you admit you're an idiot. So I felt bad for him. They still believe. He says he still believes in them being competitive this year. Thomas Tatar, when microphone stuck in his face, he says he still believes. What's he supposed to say? And again, this is what is a player supposed to say? Look at the standings. We're done. We haven't been playing well for a while. We're done. The season over yet? They're not going to say that. So, again, Montreal still believes, and I'm left again in this weird position where I feel bad for the organization. I do. Because some of those questions from the media, I'm like, seriously, just knock it off. You're trying to get the exact quote you want. He's not going to say it. You're not leading him into saying it. And you could tell he was getting kind of agitated with the questions. On the Detroit front, visa issues will keep Gagne out of the lineup tonight. He may debut as a Detroit Red Wing on Thursday. Again, Gagne goes from being in the Edmonton lineup, looking forward to playoffs, to being in Detroit. And I would think Yzerman probably buys him out in the offseason. I don't think his contract's up this year. Could be. But either way, I don't see him being part of the Detroit Red Wings next year. I think he's just kind of a throw in. Nick Holden has signed a 2-year, $3.4 million extension with Vegas, so he will be part of their top 6 next year. And I would think if they can hold on to Martinez and talk him into signing an extension once he's eligible to do so, which would be July 1st, I think they might look into that as well. Martinez has been really, really solid for them. And now it's a question of the other addition yesterday was Nick Cousins, and if he, makes that bottom 6 even more dangerous, does Vegas find a way to keep everybody under the cap, sign them to extensions for the players who are on their expiring contracts? How good could Vegas be over the next couple of years? It could be scary. Tampa Bay injury news. McDonough apparently still 10 to 14 days out. Jan Ruda is 2 to 3 weeks out. So their blue line, they added Bogosian. How long does he play? How much does he play? Those are question marks that we don't have the answers to right now. Or questions we don't have the answers to right now. McDonough is going to be back first, it looks like, and that would be good for Tampa. Not that their record suffered while they've had these injury problems. 8-2 in their last 10 is pretty good. They have lost their last 2, but they've been pretty good overall. Byfuglien, here's the surprise of the day. Might want to be sitting down for this one. That Dustin Byfuglien won't play this year. You know what's funny is that when this whole thing came out, it was Byfuglien, he's not in shape, he's not skating, he's not working out, he has no interest in playing hockey anymore. He kind of feels like he's done. Like if that's it and he retires now, he's happy. And then it morphed once it became the thing of he wants to get paid for rehabbing an injury that he suffered during the season, and the Jets going, well, then why didn't you come to training camp? Because at the very least, if we do the physical, we would have found that injury, and then why did you decide you're going to quit and now you want us to pay for your injuries? And then it morphed into maybe they'll trade him, and they were trying, they couldn't find a trade partner. I don't think it helps when he doesn't want to play. We'll take the $7 million. Does he want to play? No. So I can pencil you down for a second liner and a prospect, or a second rounder and a prospect then? No. So I think that's the problem. And that's something somebody's going to have to sit down with them this summer. I would imagine they terminate that contract. Whatever. There's no hurry to do it now. But, when Winnipeg terminates this contract, I would imagine some GM sits down with him this summer, or maybe his agent sits down with him and goes, all right, what are we going to do? What do you want to do? And at that point, he'll make the decision about whether or not to just hang up the skates, or whether or not maybe a return to Chicago would work. That was one thing that I heard in the whole rumor mill that I thought, during the summer, if he were to sign as a UFA with Chicago, that would probably make some sense for him to go back to Chicago. But then he's got to be skating, he's got to be in shape, he's got to be rehabbed up, and he's got to be, ready to go. He's not there right now. So it makes sense nobody traded for him at the deadline, because by the time he'd be in shape, he'd be able to be on the ice and fit in the lineup, it would have been weeks from now. And that might be an optimistic appraisal of the situation. Here's the good news story that continues, and I know there's people who are tired of it, so I put it at the end of the video so that you don't want to hear anything more about David Ayres. All right, no big deal. But David Ayres has become a mainstream hero. He's really become a mainstream hero, and we could all sense that watching that game on Saturday night. Something special was happening. He's an honorary North Carolinian. He's going to be at tonight's game for Carolina, and last night he was on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. He had a little guest appearance on there, and honestly, I saw a comment on Sportsnet with, "Oh, he's just milking it." Yeah, and anybody would in that situation. You know that you're going to go back to relative anonymity soon enough, so you might as well. You might as well. When somebody calls you up and goes, "Hey, you want to be on TV?" You go, "Yep." "Hey, you want to be on my show?" "Yep." "Hey, you want to come down to Carolina?" "Sure." Because if you say no, I don't want to do that, then it's gone. So, there is going to be a point where he goes back to anonymity, but it's not yet. And the good news, too, is that with the way that the media works, he may catch on with a podcast. He may find himself as a guest color guy on some broadcast somewhere. That's possible. So coming out of this, who knows? Anything's possible with this guy, and he seems like a genuinely really nice, down to earth guy, and it's a great story. So I'm glad to see that it's continuing for now. By a week from now, it'll be kind of forgotten, but you know what? It's still a good story, and then the movie will come out, and that'll be fun to watch as well. I would think like an hour and a half of just footage of him driving a Zamboni, followed by 10 minutes of the game footage, and then that's your movie. And, riveting. He missed the left corner. Oh, he went back and got it. He's such a good Zamboni driver. Just think of the movie. That would be just a thrilling moment of, that sixth time that he cleans the ice. He didn't quite get it right. Oh, he went back and fixed it. Oh, thank God. So, obviously kidding. I do think it would make for a good movie, because usually those underdog story movies are a good story. Just for that moment of him in the locker room going, "What? They're kidding, right? I'm going in just for that moment." As long as Will Ferrell doesn't play him in the movie, because at that point, then I'm done. Because then I'm out. The last thing I wanted to talk about today is something odd, and this was mentioned after the trade deadline, and I agree completely and totally with this. The Rangers and Carolina are fighting for essentially the same playoff spot. The Rangers traded a defenseman to Carolina who needed a defenseman for a draft pick. The Rangers helped Carolina right now to potentially knock them out of the playoffs. The Florida Panthers send players to Carolina. Carolina sends players, or Florida sent one player to Carolina. Carolina sends a couple of players from its roster and a couple of prospects to Florida. And in exchange, these teams are fighting over what potentially could be the same playoff spot as well. Florida, let's say Toronto gets hot. I know, stop laughing. Let's just say Toronto goes on a hot streak and they solidify that number 3 spot. Well, Florida gets pretty hot too. And they're just a couple of points out. And they lose. And they lose a game to a team that, maybe they should or shouldn't have. Meanwhile, Vinny Trocheck goes out, puts up a hat trick. That hat trick gets Carolina into the playoffs, and Florida misses. It's a situation you would not have seen I would say 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you would not have seen teams that are fighting over the same playoff spot make a move with one another. And to me personally as a fan, I find it really weird. I find it really weird because you do see teams making moves where they may very well be hurting their own chances of making the playoffs right now to pick up draft picks and prospects. And I can understand it if you're New Jersey, you're Detroit, if you're one of the California teams in the West, I get it. But when you're right in that hunt, and we saw last year in the playoffs, getting in, you're good. You might be able to knock off a top seed because of the amount of parity in the NHL right now. I just find it really odd that these teams are then kind of helping out their rivals. It is bizarre. It is something that I can't imagine would have gone down well at all 20 years ago. Like, there would have been a lot of headlines of, "Are you serious?" And look at these teams are trading with each other. Why? And what's going on? And this nobody even bats an eye now. Hey, look, Carolina traded with Florida. That's nice. Carolina traded with the Rangers. Look at that. That's nice of the Rangers to send Carolina a defenseman. That's exactly what they needed. What? No, that's not. It's weird, right? It's really, really strange. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Like, for instance, the situation where a team misses the playoffs by 2 points, and it's what helped that other team beat them is a player that they gave them at the deadline. That, to me, is really bizarre. And I don't know how you spin that to the fans afterwards and go, yeah, we lost to that guy that we just traded. But look, we're going to have this guy who will play on the team in 2 years. First round draft pick. 2 years from now, he'll make his debut. He might be good. He might not. We don't know yet. So, yeah. And I only say in 2 years because they're not trading top 5 draft picks. They're trading draft picks that are probably going to be, 15 to 20, maybe 25, depending on how they do in the playoffs. Weird. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for everything. The growth on the channel yesterday was fantastic. Over 300 subscribers signed up yesterday. So welcome if you're brand new. take up a seat. I don't sit down myself, but hopefully you can find a chair somewhere. And hey, thanks again for your support, and I will talk to you again soon.